Hey VC, Pretty Green Vinyl Guy here, and today I want to start a thread, I guess, and we can talk about this in two different ways. One is because these both sort of come together for me. So one is bands that really don't get a love on the VC. We don't really hear them talked about that much, and on the other side of that is a band that, like, let's not go with bands where everybody's dead. Let's go with bands that people are, there's the core is still alive, and you'd want to see them live in concert. So for me, this is the same band, and the name of the band is the Talking Heads. So the Talking Heads were formed in 1975. We have David Byrne, vocals and guitar. We have Chris Franz playing the drums. We have Tina Weymouth playing bass, and Jerry Harrison playing keyboards and guitars. Talking Heads had many great albums, but they never had a hit album, and that could be the reason why we don't talk about them that much. But they were definitely a huge influence on the start of sort of, I'll call it light punk, definitely new wave, and even some world music later on. And certainly David Byrne went on to do much more of that. I don't have all of their vinyl. Sadly, I don't have Talking Heads 77, which was their first album. It had the hit. It had the single Psycho Killer, which I do have on another album that we'll talk about later. And, it received, sort of a college, underground sort of crowd. And certainly laid the foundation where they went on to make a trio of really great albums with the help of producer Brian Eno. And let's talk about them. So the first album is More Songs About Buildings and Food. I always get that wrong. This was in 1978. The album cover itself is pretty epic. These were all individual Polaroid photos that were then put together in like a jigsaw puzzles type of idea to give us the front cover with the four band members. This was the album that really got them noticed because they did a remake of Al Green's Take Me to the River. And that provided them with their first airplay song, which I want to say they performed it on SNL, but don't quote me on that, but I think they did. And the album also included Found a Job, Warning Sign, and The Big Country were the other singles off of this. So More Songs About Buildings and Food. The second one that they did with Brian Eno was Fear of Music. And this was released in 79. So they were pretty prolific. 77, 78, 79, and 80 coming up right after this. A lot of people consider this one of their masterpiece albums. This has Life During Wartime, just a fantastic song. I Zimbra, Cities, and Memories Can't Wait were the other singles off of this. Their music explored many different sort of subgenres, and but was always very well produced, Brian Eno. And it was just so different than anything else that was happening at the time. And again, it kind of dumbfounds me that there's not a lot of love for Talking Heads. Their third album in 1980, which is definitely considered one of their greatest albums. This is Remain in Light. This was, again, the third in the trilogy with Brian Eno. And it's funny, we talk about the trilogy with Brian Eno with David Bowie. And so, I mean, what a guy, huh? And of course, this is a great album. This is an album that just plays so well from start to finish. This is an original Canadian pressing on Sear Records. My first two are reissues. This has the incredible Once in a Lifetime, which went on to be one of their live most requested songs. And again, the album cover with the bombers on the back, it's, I guess, sort of like a, radiation kind of idea. Yeah. So that was the three albums with Eno, and then they broke away from him, and funny enough, started to find a bit more commercial success. Now, this was the album when I was young that I first found out about Talking Heads, and then, of course, I had to work backwards. I had heard some of those other songs, but the next album is from 1983. They took a bit of a hiatus from those first four albums. This is Speaking in Tongues, which, of course, had the single Burning Down the House. Yeah, this is a fantastic album, and side one is one of the best side ones of this genre of sort of new wave music. This is a reissue on the Rhino label. The album was also notable for Girlfriend is Better, and This Must Be the Place. Sorry, my eyesight's not good. Girlfriend's Better. Swamp, and what's the other song on here? Girlfriend is Better. I can't see it, unfortunately. Take my word for it. But yeah, this was a great, fantastic album, and this reissue sounds just fantastic. And then the last one I have of their studio releases, which I think is their last good studio album, it started to go a little sideways. There was a lot of group fighting, and David Byrne was really trying to take control of the group. And Tina and her husband, they had also started the Tom Tom Club, so they were sort of doing their own thing. But Little Creatures, which is their best-selling studio album, came out in '91, and apparently there was a lot of infighting in the studio. But this is as I say, their last great album. This has And She Was, Road to Nowhere, Give Me Back My Name, Creatures of Love, Perfect World. Again, another side one that plays very, very well. This is a Japanese pressing, and just sounds fantastic. So one of the things that happened with Talking Heads is they gained a cult status, a cult following through their live performances. And None Know Better, it's probably considered, in my mind, one of the greatest live albums of all time. And that is Stop Making Sense, which came out in 1984. So it was actually the tour from Speaking in Tongues. This was the tour that followed. And this is where I started to learn when I was a young kid, some of their back catalog, because they play a number of songs. Psycho Killer's on here from '77, Swamp, Slippery People, Burning Down the House. Those were all on Speaking in Tongues. And Girlfriend is Better. That's pretty much that side one I was telling you about. That's the perfect side. You got Once in a Lifetime. What a Day That Was actually a solo Byrne song from a soundtrack he was doing as a side project, Life During Wartime, and then the Take Me to the River from the more songs about buildings and food. If you haven't seen this movie, it's on YouTube. Just such a fantastic live show, which brings me to the second part of the question. If you could see one band today, in this case all four members are still around. Unfortunately, they don't like each other, but I would love to see Talking Heads. I never saw them. After Speaking in Tongues and this tour, they did not tour very much at all. And so sadly, I never did see them. I'm hoping sometime to catch David Byrne somewhere. He still tours regularly. And yeah, so it's not a contest. It's more of a thread, more of a discussion. And I think, again, this is a band that doesn't get a lot of love on the VC, where really they should, because they really are one of the great bands of the 70s and 80s and 90s. I mean, 3 decades. I think they produced, 5 fantastic albums. And yet if I see anyone's top 100 or top 50 or top 10, there's never a Talking Heads album in there. So, so the Talking Heads, and a band you'd love to see live in your lifetime where the members are all still surviving. Thanks, everybody. I hope this spurs some conversation, and I wish all of you a happy holidays. Hopefully you'll be laying around tomorrow with turkey in your belly and perusing through YouTube and come across this video and have a watch. Cheers, guys. Thank you.